Hi guys, I'm Max, and this is Max's Motor Minute.
What's your favorite show in the whole world?
Top Gear.
That's right.
Hi guys, on this episode of Max's Motor Minute, we've got the legendary Tanner Foust joining us. Let's get into it. Hey Tanner, from your experience, is driving front, rear, or four-wheel drive more enjoyable, and why?
Ooh. First of all, they're mostly the same, except when you are on throttle enough with enough power to overcome the grip on a tire. So, in a 100 horsepower car, front, rear, all-wheel drive would all be identical. Once you get to higher horsepower, then you can start to get a little bit of wheel spin, so then you notice the difference between them. Or if you're on ice or snow. I would say rear wheel drive over front, and depending on the car, I would say all-wheel drive over rear. If it's gravel or something like that, I love all-wheel drive. I love how hard you can send it in. If it's tarmac or high grip situation, especially a car with some downforce, then I would still stick with rear wheel drive. Hope that answers the question, Max.
Wow, it's a good question, Max. Let me ask, what would front wheel drive be best for? Like nothing?
Front wheel drive used to be good for getting out of snow because the weight of the engine was over the tires. That's not really the case anymore. That's really kind of old school. Front wheel drive is the best if you want to do reverse donuts.
Of course.
Let's
be real.
If you think about it, you're asking the front tires to basically do most of the braking when you hit the brakes. You're asking the front tires to initiate the steering because they're connected to the steering wheel. And then if you're also asking them to power out of the corner, the front tires are just overloaded and the rears are just dragging along for the ride. So I'm not a big fan of performance front wheel drive.
Oh, that was good. All right, Max, what do you got for us? What's next?
Hey Tanner, out of all of the off-road racing you have done, what was your favorite car to drive, and why?
Out of all the off-road, I'm going to count Rallycross as off-road, and it was the Rallycross Beetle.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, that car was so wickedly fast. I mean, 0 to 60 in 2 seconds and over a foot of suspension travel, and pulled good grip on tarmac and still could land 180-foot jumps like a Baja truck. It was an amazing car. But one of the reasons why I really loved it, it was built by the manufacturer. So it was built by Volkswagen Motorsport, and that makes it a works car. And a manufacturer built and supported car is different. There are added zeros behind the numbers in their development process. They're spending millions instead of thousands to come up with ideas and parts. And you sit in the driver's seat and you see how well thought out everything is, and you see not just ergonomics of it, but how reliable everything is and how strong everything is, and it puts more pressure on you, the driver, because the car's not going to break. So now you need
it's there.
To
Now it's up to you.
Break.
Yeah.
And I love that experience of working on such a high level.
Do they take that tech and put it into their consumer cars?
A lot of the tech did come from, Volkswagen is notorious for using the same windshield from a 911 for 30 years into its cars, or the same differential seal in a Volkswagen bus as it has in a Porsche 911. They're notorious for sharing tech. We used a 2-liter turbo, which they are pushing currently 2-liter turbos in addition to their EVs. They developed their own spark plugs because the cylinder pressures were so high. They developed their own oil, blended their own oil for that engine. We ran 50 pounds of boost in that car, and made 600 horsepower. The engine was good for 1,000 horsepower without the restrictor on it, and that's 500 horsepower per liter.
Oh.
And so by pushing the limits that far, I think you learn a lot of lessons that can apply to the road car, and and can make them more reliable, more capable, more safe.
That's so cool. I had no idea. Wow, good question. Another good answer.
I know, Max.
Man,
knocking it out of the park. I love
Max
this.
is killing it.
Tanner, does a central driving position make racing and driving easier or harder?
Very funny that you asked that, Max, because I literally had this question yesterday, because I drove up Pikes Peak in a centrally cockpitted Radford. And it was very, very fast, and Pikes Peak has a lot of edges that you have to be close to. You can get very comfortable in your normal left side. I've also filmed movies and raced with right side seating cars, which are weird at first, but once you start sliding them around, like Tokyo Drift. I did Tokyo Drift, like 60 nights of drifting.
That's insane.
In a gray 350Z that was all right-hand drive. Pulling the handbrake and shifting gears with this little noodle arm over here is difficult. But sometimes the most dangerous part is parking, because that front left corner seems pretty far away. Central seating, though, I think it is easier to zone in. I think it's easier to get into a little bit of a zone on a windy, tight track. But would it affect your time up the mountain? Probably not.
Got it. Not that I was racing, but when we went to Ireland for the first time for our honeymoon, they just throw you in the car and they're like, here you go. You get a manual because it's the cheapest thing. And I'm looking around, I'm like, gosh, there's no track or anything to like practice. I mean, I'm a good driver, but shit, that left hand, man, I'm not used to shifting and doing stuff.
Yeah, you're over here like grinding, trying to find a gear. Yeah.
You get on the M8 and you practice a little bit. Then when you go through that first McDonald's drive-through, you're gonna kind of shit your pants because you're like, can't see it there.
Scraping wheels, yeah.
Yeah, or the car parks, they're narrow, so you're turning the wrong way. So
totally, that's fun.
Pretty good. That's a good question. What else you got, Max?
What got you hooked on cars, motor racing, and stunt driving? And between motor racing and stunt driving, which one is your favorite?
Two good questions. What got me hooked on cars? I don't know if I know that. You know what? My dad had a 912, and I've told this story, and it's true. It turns out it's a story that I told that's true.
Not made up.
My dad had a 912E, and it's a 1976 car, one of the slowest cars the Porsche ever made, probably. But it's a car that I currently own. And he drove around a corner one time when I was 5 years old, and the tires squealed around this corner. Literally was Colorado Boulevard to Hampton in Denver. And I always loved, I think I loved cars before that, but that's when I first started to love driving. And watching the process and the clutch, and watching the biting point on the clutch as he pulled away, and how he did the shifts and what RPM he would shift at. And I really focused on that stuff after that and became pretty obsessed. Second part of that question, what do I like better, the stunt driving or the racing? It's always been racing for me. Stunt driving is cool because you get to crash on purpose, and that's cool. But it doesn't scratch the competitive itch. And at some point when I was going through high school, I played some sports. In college, I didn't play sports because I was, collegiate level was just higher than I was. And I started school as an engineer, so I thought that I wouldn't have time anyway. Mm-hmm. And long story short, I was missing competitiveness in my life, and luckily found it in motorsport. And I realize that's a really important part of, if you've ever seen What a Cocky Dick I Am, sorry for the language, in the show Top Gear, then
No, you're not competitive at all, Tanner.
Yeah, then you know that I'm a little bit competitive, and so that still is the core that drives me.
Very cool. Question on your dad's cars. Is that the one you have in your place?
Yeah.
On the rack? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it sits in the second floor of my house, and it's a shrine now. Poor old thing, but I still get it out occasionally, and it's still slow, but it's still still a runner. And
it looks pretty, man. It's a good set piece in the house.
It's a good looking car.
This is Max's Motor Minute.
Word on the street is you'd better check out Max's Motor Minute. And not just because I'm Max's Nana.
Tanner, which do you prefer? A manual transmission with less gears or more gears for racing?
Less gears or more gears for racing. It depends on the profile of the motor, torque, and tech. So, for example, when Porsche came out with like the 9 Turbo, when they came out with the 911 Turbo, it had such a long turbo lag, but so much torque that they found that it was faster, better for 4 gears. Even though people had 5 gears coming out in cars, they have 5 speeds all over the place. Typically, you'd want more gears so that you can stay in a narrow power band easier. But if you have a broad power band, there's no need to carry around those extra gears. So
just more gears to shift to, right?
Just gears to carry. So if I'm driving a non-turbo car, usually a bit more gears because you really need to stay up in a high RPM range. If I'm driving a turbo car, the torque range is much flatter and broader, so you can have fewer gears and still stay in the high boost and high torque area, and you benefit with less work as a driver and still go faster.
Did any of your cars you had higher gears then for your racing?
No, just
or isn't it short more?
Yeah, Rallycross is 6-speed, but if we didn't use the first gear, a lot of times we just wouldn't put it in. In some surfaces, you would actually launch in second gear even. First gear would just be a waste of time. Never raced a car with, maybe I did like a Lamborghini Trofeo thing that may have had 7.
Wow.
But yeah, now it's all electric, so no gears. Now it's just
a straight band
and a stop button. Yep.
Another good one. Thanks, Max. Good questions there, Max.
Tanner, thank you so much for coming on Max's Motor Minute and answering all of our questions. We've got one last one for you. What makes you so passionate about what you do?
What makes me passionate about what I do is I love learning. I love learning stuff. Pilot's license, the various parts. I've raced so many different disciplines and been involved in so many aspects of the automotive world, whether it's stunt driving, doing stunts for like Hot Wheels, doing TV shows or whatever. I always come in as the beginner, and the goal is to not be the beginner for long. And I love the process of getting better at stuff and learning. So that's what keeps me driven is wanting to learn, not wanting to lose, and wanting to win.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the first episode of Max's Motor Minute. Stay tuned for more in the near future on the Go For Donny YouTube channel.
Thank you, Max. My pleasure.